Guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew, and I am back to do my review of One Piece Manga Chapter 1054. The month break is finally over, and I finally get to talk about One Piece more in depth, and Oda knows exactly what he's doing because there is a lot to talk about in this chapter that isn't just pertaining to Wano, and we're going to jump right into it because there is a lot to cover. Because speaking of cover, the first thing that we should probably talk about is the cover of One Piece this week. We just have the four current Yonko. We see Luffy, we see Blackbeard, we see Shanks, we see Buggy. We're just gonna get a double page spread of them in color as the four Yonko, the four emperors. This is great, but what is even better is what this chapter starts off with, because the chapter of 1054 is titled Flame Emperor, and that's something that we're going to get to a little bit later. But the first part of this chapter is just primarily following what's going on during the Flower Capital, or more specifically, what this new Admiral Green Bull is doing, because as we start the chapter off with Green Bull being confronted by the Scabbards, you have these Scabbards coming to a realization that, oh yeah, this guy is an enemy of Luffy. We gotta make sure we stop him before he interrupts the celebrations, because we see that characters like Nekomamushi, Denjiro, Ashura, oh yeah, Ashura's dead, not Kanemo, not Kanjiro either, which he's not here because he's dead, Kinemon as well. But now we do have some of the Red Scabbards here fighting off against Green Bull, as it is revealed what Green Bull's Devil Fruit is and what type of power he has, because Green Bull is revealed to have a Logia-based Devil Fruit, and it's called the Forest Fruit, which I think makes sense for what we've seen. He could have been a Paramecia, he could have been some form of plant zone, but no, he is a straight up Logia, as he declares it, as he's performing a very cool attack as he's growing just branches out of the ground, as we do get a very interesting look in retrospective and introspection of Green Bull and how he views the world. And he has a very horrible view of the world. The idea that discrimination is a necessity, and that if you're not associated with like the celestial dragons, you don't really exist and you shouldn't exist, so you're all going to die. And he even brings up this idea that he's going to kill thousands of people if it means bringing Straw Hat in. So we are getting characterization for Green Bull, and he is not a good character. He is in fact a horrible character, and very similar to Akainu when it comes to his ideals and how he does things, and like his goals and his motivations are very Akainu-esque, and we kind of could have guessed that from just what he said in the last chapter. So in this chapter, we primarily see Green Bull fighting against the Red Scabbards, and that they are trying to hold their own, as we see Green Bull turning into a literal giant tree forest man, and Yamato comes in and smacks him down with their Kanebo, as well as Momonosuke comes in and tries to perform a Boro breath and fails miserably. But what is very interesting about this is I'm probably not going to edit any of this, but what is very interesting about this is that we're getting to see these characters fighting for Wano Kuni, as they are declaring that it doesn't matter what this person is saying, that Wano has been under repression, been under oppression for 20 years, and that they are not going to allow the celebration to end now. So this is very interesting. We're going to get a fight between Yamato as well as the Red Scabbards against Green Bull, as well as Momonosuke is joining in, and as I said, he tries to perform a Boro breath but fails, which obviously the reasoning why that is the case, because if he did, freaking Green Bull would instantly be KO'd, because it doesn't matter if he's a Logia, he's made of plants, and what are plants good for? Burning! So it makes sense for why he cannot do this, because it would be an instant KO, but there could also be other reasonings for why this may not be the case. So yeah, that's something interesting when it comes to this chapter, getting to get a confrontation between the characters of the Red Scabbards, Yamato and Momonosuke, versus Green Bull, and that they're going to be fighting this fight without the Straw Hats knowing. And my idea of where this is going to go is that we're going to see them fight against Green Bull, and as this is happening, the people in Wano Kuni, in the Flower Capital, are going to be none the wiser, very similarly to what happened with Onigashima. But as this is all happening, most likely than not, this is going to eventually lead to Luffy and the gang having to leave Wano Kuni proper, which would cause Green Bull to follow them to very much mitigate any harm that comes to the civilians. So it's going to be really pretty much a repeat of what we've seen in the other arcs, in Dressrosa, in Alabasta, even Whole Cake, of these characters trying to escape from this island and eventually leaving it better than when they came. So it's kind of showing that Oda is still doing some repetition, still repeating some plot points that he's done before, but that there's going to most likely be a slight twist on them. And speaking of a slight twist, something that was unexpected in this chapter is the reveal that Shanks has arrived in Wano. And this is a very big deal, especially for what he says at the end of his moment in this chapter, because for the most part, this chapter is broken up into 3 parts. The fight with the Scabbards versus Green Bull, the moment with Shanks, and the last part that we're going to get to very soon. But when it comes to what we've gotten with Shanks in this chapter, there's a lot of fun moments. We get to see some of the older members of the Redhead Pirates, where we get to see Lucky Roo when he's talking about how he hasn't seen Luffy in ages. And probably the best line is how you have Yasop saying, "Oh no, I'm not ready to meet my son yet." It's just very cool because it shows that even though he's been away this entire time, he actually does care about his son to a certain extent. So we get to see these fun interactions with the older members of the crew, as well as we get some remembering or a flashback of Shanks and how he invaded like the marine ship where Who's Who was stationed at. We actually get to see that in this chapter. We don't get the full scope of it, but there's a lot that could be alluded to this idea. From this flashback, it seems as if Shanks was specifically targeting this ship to get the Hito no Mi Marunika, or from what he would know it as, the Gum Gum fruit. It seems as if he was targeting this ship specifically, and that this could have been all a part of like a master plan that he has, because as he's approaching Wano, you have the other characters on the crew that are saying, "Oh man, I can't wait to see Luffy. We need to see Luffy right now." And Shanks is like, "Oh no, I'm not going to go see him right now," because he also brings up what happens with Bartolomeo, and that's going to be something that's going to eventually come into play. Because if you didn't know, in a cover story, Bartolomeo just burns down one of Shanks's like flags in a village that he is protecting over, and puts up Straw Hat's like flag and Jolly Roger and doing all of that stuff. So Shanks brings that incident up, and that he has to deal with Bartolomeo very soon. But as this is all happening, we also have memories of Shanks thinking about what happened with his arm and how he's putting his faith in Luffy. And this could be implicating or implying that he just doesn't want to meet Luffy now. He may understand that Luffy is a great pirate at this time, but he just doesn't want to meet him right now. And we do get to see some other members of the Shanks, the Redhead Pirate crew, that we really haven't seen prior, but that they're relatively new on the actual ship, so they do not have really a connection with Luffy. But the fact that Shanks knows Luffy is really a big deal for the fact that Luffy is now a Yonko, which is something that they're excited about. But sorry for that noise. But what is probably the most interesting part of this entire chapter, it comes from the fact that Shanks is talking to Ben Beckman, and it's like, "Hey Ben, I think it's about time we go after the One Piece." And this is where you think this chapter will blow up when it comes to the reveals in this chapter. But there is still one major reveal that we haven't got to that may actually overshadow this moment. But this is still a big moment because this shows that Shanks is finally making his move. He's finally making a play. We've kind of been hinted at him beginning to make moves and beginning to stir the waters when he goes and visits the Gorosei, and the implication that he may be talking about a specific pirate and that it could potentially be Luffy, with this flashback indicating that he may know more about the Gum Gum fruit than like we probably thought that he knew. But what we're getting in this chapter is a little bit more of an understanding of Shanks and what role he's going to be playing in this final arc. And I think that the fact that he's waited this long to try and participate in seeking the One Piece could mean that he knows a lot more about the One Piece and what Roger did, and that this was all a part of his plan, and that he's putting his faith in Luffy, and that he may be an actual challenge to Luffy to actually obtaining the One Piece. He's not just an ally, but he's also going to be an enemy, and that's going to be amazing to dive into a little bit more if we get anything more out of it. So I'm going to be very excited to see where this is going for Shanks' character, as well as what it's going to play a bigger role in when it comes to the story moving forward. So that is something major, and that is something that I can talk about a little bit more in depth, but there's something else even more amazing than this, because after that, we cut over to Navy headquarters in the New World, where it's revealed who died at Reverie, or should I say, quote unquote, died, and who the assumed assassination was. And we get to reveal that the character that has died was Nefertari Cobra, and that the person who did it was none other than Sabo himself. And that this moment, this monumental moment, is so great and so world-shaking that in this chapter, you have a new Marine that we've never seen before named, and give me a moment to actually look up his name, but generally, he is the Navy Criminal Affairs Unit Chief, Kuruma, or Tensei, and he is talking to Akainu about everything that happened in the Reverie. The fact that freaking Sabo killed Nefertari, that there was an attempted assassination, not on Vivi, weirdly enough, but actually on, it's not Mjolsgard, but Mjolsgard was involved in like the incident or the assassination, but that the assassination was actually on a celestial dragon. And that celestial dragon was, oh, give me a minute, I forgot his name, but he's the guy that we actually saw during Sabaody Archipelago, and that he's the one that Luffy just punched out. What is his name? Charlos was almost assassinated, and I think what that incident was is like what we saw with Charlos and like the Shirahoshi, when he was trying to kidnap her, and then you had the other individuals, specifically, you had one of the Totanos, Leo, as well as one of the other commanders of the Kano Kingdom, I forgot his name, but he's married to Baby 5, how they tried to attack and try to rescue, tried to rescue Shirahoshi and attack Charlos, but was eventually stopped by Rob Lucci, but that all of that is going to be resolved because they are under the protection of Mjolsgard. So that is the attempted assassination, but the actual assassination and confirmation is that Cobra was killed by Sabo. And the reasoning why this is so important is because it's causing a stir in the entire world. Because whether or not you want to actually admit it, Nefertari Cobra is technically a celestial dragon. And that mainly comes from the fact that he is one of the kings of the kingdoms, one of the 20 kingdoms that founded the world government. And the fact of the matter is that he was assassinated is pretty much saying that a celestial dragon was assassinated. And the fact that the people around the world hate celestial dragons, and the fact that Sabo is allegedly killed one, is making his popularity and his influence so great that people are literally putting up posters of him on walls, potentially him also being in the background of one of them, but also his fame and infamy may be even rivaling the head of the revolutionaries, or even surpassing it, without including the fact that he is technically the brother of Luffy, who is also a Yonko. The fact of the matter is that Sabo may be even more well known than Monkey D. Dragon by the fact that he kills a freaking celestial dragon is amazing. And it doesn't even help the fact that he also rescued Kuma in the process. And he was able to compete and go against 2 admirals. Sure, they probably couldn't go full throttle because they were in Marijoa, and under that specific circumstances, they can't really go full throttle. But what Sabo did is kill a celestial dragon, rescue one of their slaves who was also a member of the Revolutionary Army, as well as declare war on the world government and the celestial dragons. That is just amazing. And that is something that Akainu has come to a realization that, oh my gosh, all of this is happening and we have to deal with all of it. As you also have Kuzan there as well, and while you also have this new emperor talking about how when it comes to all of these incidents that occurred, that when it comes to what Sabo did, it actually had major ramifications on the world by having 8 rebelling kingdoms occur from the kingdoms that actually attended Reverie. At least that's the implication that is being stated by the Tensei. So a lot of stuff has happened after Reverie and during the Reverie, and the fact that we are getting to learn a little bit more about it now is amazing, as we get to see the final part of this chapter of someone announcing about their revolution and how they're going to be taking charge and that they're upending the status quo, and that this is right now the beginning of change, as Akainu ends the chapter by saying that, yeah, I became the Fleet Admiral in a horrible era, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to strike back on all fronts as the chapter ends. So there is a lot in this chapter, and I'm only barely scratching the surface of what we got in this chapter. This is just a basic review for what we saw in this chapter, and I'm not even going into very much like the smaller details of like what's going on, what I predict is going to happen. I'm just reporting on what this chapter was on, and this chapter was amazing. We got reveal after reveal after reveal. We get to see more about Green Bull's Devil Fruit. We get to see what happened outside of Reverie, and we finally get the solution and the answer to a question that we've known since the last time we cut away from Wano to the other world. Oh my gosh, my throat is going out, but we finally got that revealed. Heck, we even got like the reappearance of Shanks, which is something that people predicted could potentially happen, or something that they predicted that a Yonko would come to Wano, which when you really think about it, at this moment in time, 4 Yonkos have appeared on Wano, not necessarily at the same time, but in succession, is crazy, as well as just the reveals at the end of this chapter. There is a lot that could go and be said about this chapter, and this is just one of many chapters to come in the final arc. So overall, I think that this was an amazing chapter to return back on when it came to One Piece, because this has everything that you want in One Piece. There's action, there's reveals, there's even more mysteries, there's just so much world building. There's a lot that you can get from this chapter, and it's just amazing. And if this is what we're getting with the return, I can't wait for what we're going to be getting next week and the reveals that we're going to be getting in that next chapter. Maybe we'll focus more on Wano. Maybe we'll focus more on the revolutionaries. Maybe we'll focus more on Shanks. Maybe we'll just focus more on the world as a whole, or maybe we will just have a time skip. I just don't know, but I'm excited to see where this story goes. So yeah, this is my review for One Piece Manga Chapter 1054. Hopefully you enjoyed this content. Hopefully you enjoyed my review. Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below on what you think of this chapter, and if you are hyped for the final war as much as I am. Leave them down in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye! And there we go.